Most people in the UFO community are familiar with the Skinwalker Ranch and what mysterious events have gone on there for years. But close by in the Valley of the Sun, in Arizona, lies another strange place, another ranch with incredible stories of alien creatures, paranormal activity, UFOs, and one man's attempt to keep his family safe, even if it means shooting an ET with an AK-47 and taking them on with a samurai sword. But let's take a look at this location, the people involved, the research conducted, and why billionaire and researcher Robert Bigelow, who owns Skinwalker Ranch, took interest in the property. Psychiatric therapist John Edmonds and his wife Joyce, a former FBI employee, saved enough money to buy their dream ranch, where they hoped to rescue and raise horses and canines, and in 1996, they purchased the Stardust Ranch in Buckeye, Arizona. The dream ranch would immediately start to prove problematic. The previous owners had left all their belongings inside the house. John reached out to the real estate agent that had sold the house and was advised that everything would be removed in a few hours. When John returned to the house later that day, all the belongings were at the bottom of the empty pool. John became furious and rang the real estate agent. He was advised the previous owners arrived at the ranch only to find the stuff already inside the empty pool and refused to retrieve it. John would end up discarding everything himself, but has always wondered who moved everything into the pool when the main gate was locked and secure. After cleaning up the pool and the yard and moving into the ranch house, John found a stranger approaching with a machete in his hand. John, unarmed at the time and very apprehensive, approached the man and asked him what he was doing and to leave the grounds. The man indicated he lived on the ranch. John assumed the man was mentally ill and in a calm but assertive voice asked the man to leave. The man, hearing that John was the new owner, turned and walked away, but then stopped and said, quote, "You are going to wish I was here. There are monsters on this property, and I kill them," end quote. John watched the man leave the property and decided to keep an extra watch in case he returned. On several nights, both John and Joyce started seeing lights. They believed it was a flashlight and went to investigate only to find these orb-like lights zoomed off out of sight, sometimes across the land, other times up into the atmosphere. For several years, John and Joyce never mentioned the orbs or the other incidents that occurred at the ranch. They were both credible, intelligent, hard-working folks who operated a horse and canine rescue ranch and did not want the stigma of being witness to the paranormal or UFO encounters. They did not need that kind of attention. But things seemed to escalate as several of their rescue horses were found dead, mutilated, with their eyes and tongues removed. Researchers have claimed the deaths and mutilations were not consistent with animal or scavenger attacks. And then things got even stranger. Both John and Joyce started seeing beings late at night, following sightings of the light orbs. They claim that they see what we typically describe as gray aliens, small 3 feet tall beings with large heads and bulging eyes and skinny limbs. John indicates that the alien beings have recently been making more appearances, but before that were more discreet, making clandestine visits to them while they slept. They seem especially drawn to Joyce, who has been harassed on numerous occasions, during which she is unable to move or scream. They have woken up to puncture-like wounds on their skin with blood, as if syringes were used on them during the night. Many times they have large bruises. There are also occasions that they cannot account for lost time and fear they were abducted. One time John and Joyce were awoken to find that 3 rescue Rottweilers were barking and then attacking one of the alien creatures. The creature retreated and the dogs were called back unharmed. However, just days later, they simply dropped dead. When the visits increased and the attacks were getting more invasive, John decided to arm up, including purchasing knives, swords, handguns, shotguns, and assault rifles. On several occasions he shot at the creatures and kept them at bay. In one hand-to-hand encounter, John took a samurai sword and pierced the creature, but it seemingly vanished into thin air. According to John, a chunk of flesh remained on the sword. John sent this piece of evidence to be tested by scientists. The samples were sent to Michigan to be analyzed by biophysicist and crop circle researcher W.C. Levengood, who had been collecting samples of the Stardust Ranch's soil. When the research on the tissue and fluid sample were completed, he reached out to John Edmonds and claimed he had discovered the holy grail of alien evidence that linked cattle mutilations that occur across the country. The tissue was pure hemoglobin that is not found on the planet and only seen at sites where cattle had been mutilated. The evidence seems to also contain what seemed like grass at first, but was actually a plant crossed with animal-based substance not seen on Earth. Biophysicist W.C. Levengood stopped writing to John Edmonds suddenly, which appeared strange because he was very enthusiastic with corresponding with him earlier. Levengood left the research incomplete as he died in 2013. Then visits by the Men in Black started to occur. John and Joyce both witnessed men dressed in black in unmarked cars observing the ranch. When approached, they advised John not to go public with any information he had. When Joyce, a former FBI employee, tried to identify the vehicles, they had no markings, no plates, no way of identifying them at all. The men also refused to answer who exactly they were. That's when John decided to tell his story and go public with all the previous encounters and experiences, making appearances on Coast to Coast AM and inviting others to the ranch. Joyce, however, has remained silent and indicates she wishes to have no publicity and refuses to do interviews. In 2016, John decided to sell the property to Robert Bigelow for $2.5 million. Due to privacy, the investigation and subsequent purchase deal was not made public. However, it appears as if Robert Bigelow was not interested in purchasing this property. The ranch was then taken off the market, making some speculate that John had fabricated the stories in order to get Bigelow's interest and cash out as a millionaire. More recently, the ranch has been put back on the market. However, the price has been doubled to $5 million. And once again, John said that Bigelow is once again considering making an offer as new evidence has been made available. John then collected photographs and video evidence of light anomalies, and he believes that he had captured evidence of portals to another dimension. The most recent claim is that he has been branded by aliens. There was no warning, nothing to see, hear, or communicate with. An excruciating pain and a sense of crushing pressure, followed by the indentation in John's leg. Both John and Joyce have experienced skin punctures, triangular depressions in the skin, and have seen bruising and skin disfigurement, similar to what one would experience if exposed to radiation, followed by nausea, gastrointestinal distress, and chronic fatigue and muscle weakness. Joyce has been reported to be levitating on several occasions, and John has had to handcuff her to the bed overnight in order to not allow for an abduction. Previously, when she was levitated into a beam of light to board a UFO, John opened fire with an AK-47, and she was promptly brought down. What is really going on at the Stardust Ranch? Is there an interdimensional portal allowing for some extraordinary events to take place? Is John's story true? Or is it altogether a grand hoax? Or is it a combination? Are others taking John's stories and adding to them to further their own agendas? A form of disinformation, information. There is yet to be a real, truthful scientific investigation by actual UFO researchers. Yes, para-celebrities and YouTubers have visited, but these have not produced any substantial evidence. They just seem to muddy the waters and cause even more skepticism. John might have encountered demons disguising themselves as aliens, but still there's not enough information and clearly not enough evidence. As for Stardust Ranch and John's story, For now, it remains unsolved.